Good evening and welcome to Hot News, your most authoritative evening political show in the country. We are coming to you from our studios in Abelinkwe 48 Swanika Street here in Accra. We are live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. We are also live on YouTube at Pan-African Television. You can join the conversation by sending your views, comments, and contributions on our WhatsApp line. We'll make a time and read all those up for you. Can as well leave your questions, suggestions, and whatnot on our social media pages. We'll also make a time and go through all that, read all those, concerns, messages, and all of that you're going to be leaving on our social media pages for you. You can as well share our live post on Facebook as many times as you can so that other people get the opportunity to watch tonight's edition of the program. Tonight on Hot News, we are looking at Ghana's health sector. We are looking at the state of the health sector as it stands now under this government. You recall that government promised to establish some hospitals in this country. I think they talked about establishing some district hospitals and all of that. What has been the state so far? What is going on currently with regards to that? We'll be delving into that properly. We'll also be looking at COVID-19. We've been, plagued with a pandemic that is COVID-19. Of course, if you check, the front page of Inside newspaper, what they are talking about is that a report says that some huge amount of money, about 14.2 billion Ghana cedis COVID-19 fund, have not been accounted for. The monies we used, during the COVID era for, whatever, cannot be accounted for. We'll be looking at that. Stay glued to your channel. I've been joined in the studio by Dr. Market Nawani, Member of Parliament for Nabdam. Doc, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll be looking at what was presented in the budget in terms of, health. I mean, what government has, for the health sector and all of that. But before we start, if you would want to probably greet the people of Nabdam, and then if you have a message for them before we start.
First, let me say hello to the viewers of Pan-African Television, especially those who have been able to stay until this hour watching us. And also to say in my local language, to greet my people in our local language. Mbana manama yempo ya Zambe Pan-African Television benetum toma kaya kwenye meng la asro min ka mami yeti zozo wo so min la me ka mpo ya zozo.
All right, thank you so much, Doc, for that message. Our good people in Nabdam.
Yes.
That is a message from, or a greeting from Dr. Market Nawani, your Member of Parliament. Now, Doc, let's look at the health sector. I'm sure you are on one of the committees in Parliament, and I'm pretty sure you're on the health committee in Parliament.
Yeah.
All right, now, let's look at the health sector under President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. What would you say generally about the sector?
Okay. Just recently we had the budget, and it is said that you know where your heart is, that is where you put your money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we need to understand that the current government, in terms of health, I think it has made it a second fiddle to so many other departments, like education, agri, etc. I believe that President Nana Akufo-Addo has not prioritized health as a lead area that it has to invest in. And so let us look at...
You say he has not prioritized the health sector as a lead area to invest in. What do you mean? Because as far as the government is concerned, a lot has been done in terms of health.
Yes. But let us look at what probably influences, budgetary allocation, especially to the health sector. We've got to look at the epidemiological profile of, or what we might call the disease burden in the country. And if you look at the disease burden, you realize that communicable disease is still prevailing, and non-communicable disease is on the ascendancy. When I say non-communicable disease, this morbid disease that when you are living good in Ghana, now this is also rising. It's on the ascendancy. Diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, pneumonia, asthma, etc. Because of our lifestyle, all diseases are on the rise.
But one will say that these diseases have been on ascendancy, not under this government. We've been living with these diseases all this while. And
they've been there, but they are on the rise. They are on the rise. They are on the rise.
Just under this government?
Not only under this government, but since they are on the rise, we expected that a lot more should have been considered when allocating budgetary allocation. Then, of course, our good friend COVID, that has since last year, under this government has come, it has all increased the pressure on the health sector. Then we have to also gauge at what do we really want to achieve, because as a health sector, if you don't set the targets properly, you will not be able to know how much you have to invest in the health sector. Yes. So we have to link the budget with what outcomes we want.
Very well. Now, it looks as if you are so much focused on the budget and its allocation for the health sector.
Yes.
I want to ask, what factors influence the health budget? Once you are demanding that a lot more should have been included in the budget in terms of health.
Exactly.
What goes into,
the factors
that determine what should be put
so for each country,
in the budget in terms of health?
For each country, you have to examine your disease burden, like I've already said, and then the epidemiological profile that you have, and know that, yes, if all these things is on the ascendancy, then you have to possibly do more allocations. Then you need to know what outcomes you want. What do you want to achieve? For example, there was a time that some countries decided that they wanted to eliminate polio. Polio. They invested a lot of money in the health sector because they wanted to eliminate polio. At that time, we had some other countries who thought that, if we can control it in some way, if we can just manage it, those countries allocated less resources to the health sector. So you've got to look at what outcomes you want. Now we are being directed by what we call the universal health coverage concept. A target has been set for 2030, where there are supposed to be some clinical outcomes. And so budgetary allocation should be linked to achieving these targets. Let me just give one or two. If we take something like maternal mortality, it is a very dear area to most politicians and to most practitioners. We want it to be like the maternal mortality of any country should not exceed 70 per 100,000 deliveries. If you want to achieve this, then you've got to allocate more resources to that area. In Ghana, we seem to de-link some of these outcomes that we need from our budgetary allocations, and you don't see, they don't put the correlation together for you to really see that, yes, there's a correlation between maternal mortality and then budgetary allocations. And that is not only with maternal mortality. We have got so many other parameters like child mortality, under 5 mortality, the number of malaria cases we are seeing, etc. The number of antenatal care attendants for pregnant women. All these have got their parameters that we need to make sure that in doing budgetary allocation, we look at we look at how we can get to the recommended targets that have been set by the universal health coverage.
Are you saying that all these factors you've mentioned were not considered when the 2021 budget was being presented in Parliament?
You don't see the real link and the real arguments that look at these factors, and then the budget, because it appears that the budget allocation is done independent of linking them to the attainment of these goals. Then, of course, the political economic system that we have, like I was saying, currently it appears that there are a lot of pull factors on this government. They want to implement the free SHS program, which is their I would say their lead program so far as the last 4 years of governance is concerned. And then other factors, planting for food and jobs, etc. All this, that's in the agri sector. Yes, these are programs that are their own ideas and their lead programs. And so, with the health sector, it appears that it is important, but not as important to the current government.
But you would agree with me that government is running, various sectors of the economy.
That is true.
So when allocations are done,
yes,
they look at other sectors so that no other sector would suffer. Allocations would have to be done in a way that all sectors would at least have that balance, money should be allocated appropriately. So if you are not seeing enough as expected by you within the health sector, it's not as if government is not doing anything in terms of health.
That is true, but government has to prioritize, because there's always limited resources. The resources are limited, and government has to prioritize. And I believe that when you prioritize against health, or in a situation where the health sector suffers, I believe that you will not be making any progress in life, because we need a very energetic workforce, a healthy nation to really be able to increase production. Yes. So all the same, I believe that we have to advocate so that the health sector is able to get its fair share of resources. Yes. And as we go on, I will come to
so answer
some of these questions, and see how best and see the extent to which the health sector is suffering from lack of, I would say, adequate allocation of budgetary resources to it.
Okay, so you have established that there has been inadequate, allocation to the health sector in the 2021 budget.
Yes.
Now, what are your expectations? What do you think, or how much do you think should have been allocated to the health sector to be able to take care of, or to make government prioritize or appear to have been prioritizing the health sector?
Okay. During the HIV pandemic, South Africa is one of the countries that suffered a lot from the HIV pandemic. It got to a time that they were allocating about 8% of their GDP to the health sector. And this is what they did over some number of years. to finally be able to contain the HIV pandemic and other health-related issues.
Okay.
And so we need to look at our some form of a peer review. What the WHO is saying or recommending, and what the Abuja Declaration. When I want to talk about health, we talk about the Abuja Declaration as well. If you take the WHO recommendation, even though it is not compulsory on any nation, but their recommendation says that at least 5% of our GDP should be allocated to the health sector. That is for most of the developing countries. This should be something that we should be orientating. In Ghana, if you take the 2021 budget, with our GDP now exceeding 380 billion, the health sector was allocated 8.5 billion, and which means that if you do the calculation, it's about 2.2% of GDP was allocated to the health sector. That is far less than the recommended percentage by the World Health Organization or the WHO. With the Abuja Declaration, it was we ourselves, sub-Saharan African countries, we all met in Abuja in 2001, looked at our health systems and said that no, for some good number of years, we needed to locate about 15% of our annual budget to the health sector if we wanted to improve on health and make sure that we get to the targets that have been set for ourselves. And in Ghana, we're doing about 7%. For the past, there were times we do 6.8, 7%, 7.4%. So averagely, we have been doing that since this government came to power. In other words, we have not been allocated, even if you take this international parameters into consideration, we have not been allocating enough resources to the health sector. Now let's go to what was allocated to 2021.
What has been the allocation?
The allocation
in the
has been
2021
about
budget?
8.5 billion.
8.5 billion.
And last year we did 7.3 billion. Yes, last year we did 7.3 billion. This thing. So there has been an increase of 1.2 billion.
Exactly.
Yes, but considering the fact that you know, the inflationary pressures, etc., this nominal increase of 1.2 billion is still insufficient so far as the health this is concerned. Then we have about, I mean, in terms of percentages, it's about 16% increase.
16% increase.
Yes, compared to the previous year. Now, if you take what we call compensation, compensation is just the salaries, wages, etc., that we pay to health workers or those in the health sector. Yes. I mean, the total amount is about 5.5 billion. And then goods and services. Goods and services are the items that we buy. You know, what was allocated to the items that we buy is about 2 billion. Now, what we call capex is about 1 billion. 1 billion has been allocated to it. That is the amount that is supposed to be used to capital expenditure. Build and do a lot of infrastructure work. Yes, 1 billion. So we have got about 64% in terms of percentages. 64% of the health budget going into remuneration or payment of salaries, wages, etc. Then we have got for the goods and services, that is the amount used to run the let's say the hospitals, the ministries, etc.
Okay.
Yes, they used to purchase their goods and provide services. That one takes 23.55%, and the capital expenditure takes 11.8%. So you see that most of the money in actual fact goes to pay workers. Only a little amount of it is left for capital expenditure. And in Ghana, I mean, the COVID exposed us that we were not having enough infrastructure to withstand a disease such as COVID. So we needed to now put on or to build more infrastructure. So we expected that this year, knowing what has happened last year, when we were exposed, when we had to use a lot of Mahama projects that they said were uncompleted, we had to use them to help contain the COVID. I was thinking that this year, the budgetary allocation for capital expenditure would be very, very high. But that is low. But also, even if you look at, let's take the capital expenditure alone, that we should be very, very interested in, because that tells us the future of the health services. We need to put on more infrastructure. We need to acquire more technology and more equipment.
Exactly, because you recall that sometime past, President Akufo-Addo announced that they were going to build some 88, district hospitals and all of that.
Yeah, I will come to that.
You will come to that.
Yes,
all right, very well.
Because that was captured in another part of the budget. Yes, I'll come to that. Yes, but with this amount, the bad aspect of it is that the capital expenditure depends on donors giving us money. In other words, the European countries and other countries giving us grants and gifts. I call them gifts because donor funds are like you don't pay for it. Yeah. But looking at the way the COVID-19 is going on in these countries, the way it is, making them to spend a lot of their own money on COVID-19, we do expect a lot of money to be given to other countries. In other words, donor funds is going to dwindle. It's going to go down because they themselves are spending a lot of money in the health sector because of COVID-19. Okay. Yes. And we are expecting that they will give us an amount of 721 million Ghana cedis for our budget.
We're expecting that the donors will give us 729 million.
And that is the amount.
Are you talking about Ghana cedis or dollars?
Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedis,
yeah,
okay.
The budget is in Ghana cedis.
Okay.
We expect this amount to come in to assist us carry out our infrastructural work. In other words, our infrastructural work depends on to build hospitals, to build clinics, chief compound, etc. It depends on money coming from outside, or freebies coming from outside, or money that somebody has to give to us as gifts for us to use it to build infrastructure. Okay. And that is why I'm worried about the health budget, because the health budget is so much dependent on external donations. If you look at the whole thing, you see about 70% of it depends on external donations. And we are, I was saying that we are not prioritizing health. Our political economic system is not.
I want to understand something here briefly before you continue.
Yeah.
I have with me here the 2021 budget statement presented by the majority leader in Parliament. Yes. And under health, this is what it says. Yes. Mr. Speaker, In pursuit of the government's health infrastructure, including Agenda 111, the ministry awarded contracts for the construction of 101 district hospitals, 7 regional hospitals, and 3 psychiatric hospitals. In 2021, the implementation of these projects will continue. In addition, following the health infrastructure projects were complete, the following health infrastructure projects were completed in 2020, and he mentioned those projects that were completed. Yeah. I'm very much interested in the Agenda 111, where they have awarded 101, contracts in terms of building district hospitals and 7 regional hospitals and all of that. Are you saying that these contracts are dependent on monies that are coming from donors?
These contracts, that is a very big fallacy. The way it was read in the budget. I'm saying this because there's something good that happened before even that. During the State of the Nation address, the President, Nana Akufo-Addo, stated that government is going to make sure that they complete all uncompleted projects. And informed, assured the nation that uncompleted projects will be worked on. And so I was thinking that this was going to also have an influence on the budget. But if you look at the budget, what we are stating is captured separately as approved projects for the 2021 budget. And the approved projects, it is stated there that loans will be looked for to carry out these projects. So for him to say that they've already awarded contracts for the for the construction of this 101 hospitals, that is the district hospitals,
1 district hospitals, 7 regional hospitals, and 3 psychiatric hospitals.
The total is
111.
111.
And out of 111, they've awarded 101.
Yes. The total is 111, and that includes the regional hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, etc.
Yes.
Yes. For him to say that this number have been awarded on contracts, whilst not in the budget, there is no detail about anything. All that is said is that they have been approved and loans. They are going to search for loans. This is not part of the donor process, but they are going to look for loans to carry out these projects. And now in presenting the budget, it appears that they've already awarded them, etc. I don't know. But it is not. That is not what is in the budget in terms of the tables. It is part of a list of projects that government has stated that it is going to look for loans to carry them out. I don't think that the loans have arrived in Ghana, and this government likes sloganeering. Yes, Agenda 111. When it has not even, I don't know whether even land acquisition has been completed. Well, I don't even know whether they've been able to start negotiating on the loans that are supposed to come in to assist implement the Agenda 111. But the slogan is out there already. People, when you listen to radio stations, they're already celebrating something which has not yet arrived. That Agenda 111 is in Ghana, and that very soon every district will have a hospital. When in practicality or in practical terms, we've not done any allocation. There's no allocation in the budget.
But if there's no allocation, why then would
the claim will be built?
Why then was it indicated in the budget that they have awarded these contracts already?
Yes, that is the contradictions in the budget. There's a lot of contradictions in the budget, and in the health sector, that is a contradiction. Where they are saying one thing, but you look through the whole budget and you can't substantiate, what has been stated. So this 101 hospitals, if that is the case, like during my presentation or my contribution to the policy debate, I said if that is the case, then we should expect that we will have about 26 or 27 hospitals built this year. After all, we are saying that it's in 4 years' time, this government will definitely go out of power. So if it is supposed to implement Agenda 111 in 4 years, then 111 divided by 4, and then you have about how many? 111 divided by 4.
Yeah.
You should have about less than 30 hospitals. So it's 2831. Around 27 hospitals should be built in a year.
Every year.
Every year. We should see 27 hospitals built. And
Is that possible?
I believe that this debate will not stop now. Let's hope that, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and that they have done some work which they couldn't put in the budget. And that this year alone, 2021, assume that they start foundations for 27 hospitals, they should be able to complete it.
Okay.
Yes, in their first year of because of Agenda 111. So we are having a situation where you look at the budget and realize that what has been stated, this 721 for capital expenditure, what has been stated is woefully inadequate if you look at what they plan to build or what they plan to establish.
Now, if you look at the health sector, I mean, we cannot talk about the health sector without talking about the pandemic we are plagued with. I'm talking about COVID-19.
Yes.
It has had a toll on every economy, of which Ghanaian economy is part, and definitely would have affected the health sector. The question is, what would be the effect of COVID-19 on the budget?
Yeah, that is what we try to look at its effects in 2021, and also try to it started in 2020.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And see the extent to what the resources that came was used for. It is estimated around 19 billion came in. And when the Minister of Health came before us as a committee in Parliament, he was very frank with us that 600 million Ghana cedis passed through the Health Directorate directly. Okay. And he can account for that. So the remaining about 18 billion or whatever amount that was left went through other departments, etc. And so you realize that the management of the COVID resources came through the Ministry of Finance. It's for the Ministry of Finance that the allocations were done. And I believe that this is bad. Because how do Ministry of Finance give money to the Ministry of Education to buy COVID items? How do we ensure quality? Because so far as COVID items are concerned, I believe that those who can assess its quality properly are technocrats in the health ministry. Okay. And they should be involved in the procurement process right from the beginning to ensure that the specifications are met and supplied to the schools or to the educational sector. But for it to move directly from the Ministry of Finance to the educational sector, it's not correct. In fact,
is that what happened?
I believe that that's what happened, because if 600 million, the Minister of Health can account for only 600 million out of the 19 billion that was supposedly spent on COVID. Then what are we talking about? Indeed, these COVID funds, so many Ghanaians have been calling that there's always the need for us to repeat that there's the need for a proper, should I say, a proper auditing of this amount of money that came into a country that has been supposedly used to fight COVID. We had a shutdown, only two shutdown in 2020. I remember there are 52 weeks in a year. So if you get 2 weeks shut down, that means we work for 50 years.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're
50 weeks.
50 weeks. 50 weeks, yes. 50 weeks. Because we had a shutdown, and not the whole country. It was only Accra, Greater Accra, and Greater Kumasi. So if we had a shutdown of about 2 weeks, and we're always complaining that the COVID destroyed the economy, the COVID did that. 2 weeks out of 52 weeks. We work for 50 weeks. But like I'm saying, if your fundamentals are weak, the COVID will expose you. Yes, and I believe that our economic fundamentals are very, very weak. Now we have even been classified as a low-income country. Some of the commentators are saying that, but it was there for years.
The military has been debunked that claim that we have been, downgraded to a low income.
Oh no! If we are not downgraded, then we are not rather upgraded, because some countries have been stated in some category where I believe that Ghana should have been there. Then we are not upgraded. If we are not downgraded, then we are left while other countries were lifted to improving economies, or developing middle income countries. So we shouldn't be happy that this argument, this argument should not even be there, because if we are not downgraded, but others were upgraded, and others are stated, like Angola, Rwanda, some countries that I believe that Ghana should have been with them, and we are still left with at where we are. We shouldn't be happy about our status as we see it now. Now with the COVID, if you look at the pattern in 2020, of course we had COVID. We kept all the measures there, but the effect of COVID in the last 3 months in Ghana is more than its effect in 2020. In other words, COVID situation in 2021 is worse than it was in 2020.
How possible?
The number of deaths have increased.
After the vaccination?
Well, now it is...
After the protocols that are observed?
Yes. But we stopped somewhere... We stopped somewhere in 2020. We stopped somewhere in 2020 to do registration,
and then
campaign, etc. We had our Christmas, etc. And by the effect came in 2021. Yes, the effect came in 2021. We are now experiencing a worse situation now, and so I wonder. You see, they put in that we have spent a lot of money on COVID, and I said, I asked myself, but if in 2021, in 2020, this was the situation, and this amount of money was spent, now the situation is worse. Why is it that with the situation being worse, the subsidies on electricity and water, etc., have been withdrawn? Why are we now going to be levied? Because after all, we are not yet out of COVID. Indeed, some countries are having their the third wave. We are having our second wave. But some countries are having their third wave. Why don't we wait and see what is going to happen to us? Why do we now have to bring in COVID-19 levy?
You and I know that the country cannot bear the cost of the free electricity that was given to the good people of Ghana sometime past.
Ghanaians did not ask.
That the country as well at the time of lockdown had to feed the vulnerable. So, some meal were prepared for persons who are vulnerable and all of that. All those, are monies that were taken from the coffers of the state. It has definitely had a toll on, the country. And so if today we are being levied to pay some, monies or some taxes to make sure that we restore back what we lost, that's a bad thing to do.
These ideas of freebies, this idea of subsidies, let me be honest with you. Did you see any Ghanaian demonstrating that he wanted subsidies?
Not at all.
All these things emanated from the government. At the time that the COVID came, and we're close to elections, the government brought all these things to cause what I call a temporary alleviation of poverty. It has caused the poverty. It will now bring a temporary alleviation to the poverty that it has caused. And then, after the elections, when they have won the election, now they remove all the subsidies, they remove all the freebies. That's what happened. Because if these so-called subsidies were to alleviate poverty whilst the COVID was ongoing, is the COVID over? I'm saying that it's getting worse. We're only used to it to some extent. I want to say used to it to some extent. Number of people dying, or the number of people who died in 2021 have exceeded that of 2020. Yes. We're around 300 or so by the end of the year. Now we're around 700. Or even more now. We should be getting to 800 now. So within these 3 months in 2021, more people have died than in 2020. And how do we assess the severity of any pandemic? How do you assess it? It's not the number of people who lose their lives because of that. It's not because of mortality. And the active cases in 2021, they are more than the active cases that we used to have in 2020. So let us not think that it is because of COVID that we had the subsidies. No. I want to state categorically clear that it was because of the elections, the impending elections. That is why those subsidies, freebies, was given to us. And now we are being asked because the elections are over. And so we have to pay back. And so we have a COVID-19 levy. I'm not happy about the COVID-19 levy.
Why are you not happy about the COVID-19?
First and foremost, when you look at the name, it appears that it should be going to the health sector.
Is it not going to the health sector?
This is going to the consolidated fund.
Okay.
It has not been fenced. There's no timeline. I will say that we project that COVID-19 will be with us for as many years as we can. It is something that we want it to continue like that. We could have, if there's a levy because of COVID-19, okay, after we'll review it again after next year or something. There should be, what do you call it, a time set, or a time that we should be able to say that no, after this time, we have to renew it again, or just it goes off completely for us.
All right.
So COVID-19 levy is not fenced. It is just open to the consolidated fund. It's not going to the National Health Insurance Authority. I wish that we could use this opportunity to let it go to the National Health Insurance Authority, because they already have problems so far as healthcare finance is concerned. During the election year, they had to borrow money to pay service providers. And that is a warning sign that we are not, so far as health finance is concerned, we are at a stage where it's quite critical. You know, during the vetting of the Minister of Health, yeah, I think he stated it, and he confirmed it that yes, he did that to assist the system. Of course, that was an election year, so we expected that they should take all measures. You know, they are used to borrowing, so to take all measures to ensure that they go through the elections. But after elections, we have to sit down and look at the financing model of the health insurance scheme and then come out with appropriate measures. And I would have been happy if all these monies were going to the health insurance fund.
Okay.
For it to take care of it. Yes.
All right, let me take a few of our messages. I'll come back for us to continue. This one says, President Akufo-Addo, building 88 hospitals was a hoax and was just for political advantage. The health minister at the vetting told us that they did not build a single hospital 4 years in government. Lies. Stephen in Kwabenya sent in that one. Stephen, thank you so much for your message. This one says, good evening, Justice. I love your show. Keep it up. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Please don't call the WhatsApp line. Unfortunately, I cannot answer calls on the WhatsApp line. So you can only, send in your messages via our WhatsApp line, and it's going to be read for you. Good evening, General Justice. I love your show. Keep it up. Keep it up. God bless our homeland, Ghana. Gentle Jack from Newtown. Gentle Jack, thank you so much for your message. Justice, have you forgotten that we took loans from IMF, World Bank, Bank of Ghana, Stabilization Fund, donation from public institutions, etc.? Have they accounted for those monies? No. All right. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, the opposition is not always right, and the government is not always repressive. Some oppositions are vicious, and their quest for power is based on a mentality of a birthright to lead. The opposition to Nkrumah and the NDC should provide context. The oppositions deserve the heavily handedness they enjoy. This should inform the discussion of what constitutes dictatorship. Koshi Badohu Ayivo and Deno sent in that one. Even if you are a chief, you must be a smart thief. Even if you are a thief, you must be a smart thief to sustain and perpetuate prosperity from your loot. Europe has proven to be smart, and we have proven to be incapable of exploiting our resources for our benefit. Resources are not, but they become. The presence of a resource is just a potential, but what matters is the capacity to transform the potential to reality. This we are not doing. Simple. Government communicators. Government communication should not join the rest of us in bemoaning and describing our problems. It should be professing its solution to our problems for which it was voted. The president and those who communicate for this government should be telling us what has been or they have been doing. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, in fact, this is a common sense and a daylight robbery. When water supply was flowing at a regular basis of 24 hours flow and was not being rationed, monthly water bills was just between 80 Ghana cedis and 90 cedis. But now that daily water supplies to every home is being rationed monthly, bills have strangely and criminally 550%. How is that not inhumane and a very, very insensitive style of governance? Or is it that Ghana is being misgoverned by a bunch of Sakawa mafias whose only aim is to starve the whole country by creating loot and share to create an empire for themselves and their families? Abochi Philip from Keta constituency sent in that one. Honorable, we don't have enough time. I would want to come back to you on the discussion. I wouldn't want to take more of the messages. We have a lot more here.
Okay.
If we continue to read the messages, we may not have enough time to digest the rest of the issues.
Okay.
So now let's look at this. Implications to Ghanaians, of course, especially Ghanaians who patronize the healthcare system. The implication of COVID-19 on Ghanaians.
Yeah, and the implication, the overall implication when there are inadequate budgetary allocations to the health sector is that we operate an inefficient healthcare system that is plagued with a lot of challenges, and the brunt of it is borne by Ghanaians who patronize the health facilities and who are in the country. If you look at the universal health coverage concept, which calls for geographical access as well, financial access, technological access of health, you realize that if we don't put aside some money to build health facilities, if we don't buy a lot of the equipment, our people have to travel long distances before they can access health. There are people who are sick, let's say in the north, they have to travel all the way to Okonfanochi to be able to access health care. And that is bad for every nation. Then comes the issue of even health financing. You know, how much they have to pay for health services. During the budget analysis, we had a number of hospitals that came before us. And if you look at their revenues, you realize that, and then their hospital attendants, you realize that even though 80% of hospital attendance is done by those with insurance, they account for only 20% of 30% of revenue. That's 80% of the attendance accounting for only what? 30% of the revenue. And then 20% who are private patients accounting for 70% of the revenue. What it means is that there is either co-payment taking place or out-of-pocket payments being made at the hospitals. And what it also means is that the health insurance is contributing about 30% to the running of all these hospitals that came before the committee. And that is not good enough, because health insurance is the major, is supposed to carry the major burden of financing health facilities and financing healthcare in the country. And if we don't look at this issue very well, what we fear most, what we call cash and carry, I must say, is coming back. It's crippling back slowly. Nobody's talking about it. And that is all due to the poor management of the economy. We are not putting, in fact, our oil money our oil money, the money that we get from oil, we are putting only 1% into health. So even though Ghana has discovered oil, the health sector is not benefiting. Last year, I think when I contributed to the debate in Parliament, I remember saying that our minister was not lobbying enough. But that time they had 1.2%. And this year it has reduced to 1%.
1%, yeah.
And so we're not putting enough money into the health sector. Unless we think out of the box to have the National Health Insurance Scheme that has the sole responsibility of what? Improving on financial access by Ghanaians, by patients, we are going to be, in some few years to come, back to where it all began. We are going to move back to the 1970s or 1980s.
In your earlier submission, you said it's a matter of government prioritizing, the sector.
Exactly.
If government prioritizes the health sector,
yes,
isn't it possible that we will also have some other sectors suffer?
Yes, but
because other sectors also need to be prioritized.
Yeah.
So why the health sector?
The health sector is an area that we don't have a choice. Eventually, if we neglect it today, we'll pay a bigger price tomorrow because we've neglected the health sector today. Yes. And all that the government currently is doing in the health sector is to keep the boats or the ship floating. It's not thinking out of the box. It's not thinking of ways and means to ensure that we improve on the health sector. Most countries are working very, very hard on their health sectors because they know that it is that area that eventually will lead to an increase in production. If you have a healthy citizenry, you are most likely to be able to improve on your education. You are most likely to improve on your production, be it agric, be it industry, etc. So we actually have to ensure that we do the right thing so far as the health sector is concerned. This sloganeering, painting a picture that you are doing a lot in the health sector, whilst in actual fact, we are practically not doing much. When I call the percentages, I think you saw it yourself. The WHO assessment, 2.2% of GDP, as against a minimum of 5%. A minimum of 5%, we are doing 2.2. 100% less, more than 100% less than what we should be, the minimum that we should be doing. So let us look at it very well. We are not ready to use our tax revenue to do any work so far as health is concerned. We are only ready to borrow and do it. So if we go to the financial market and we're not able to get money to borrow, or we're not able to get people who are ready to build for us at exorbitant prices. If you look at the cost of these hospitals that they come in to build for us, indeed, I always advise that if possible, government should look for money and look for a way of building their superstructure. I'm not against if the technology is expensive, because technology should be expensive. It's somebody's brain work. And so it is expensive. What about the buildings and other things that are there? How many of us are building our houses with millions of dollars? We're not doing that. And yet, so far as government is concerned, government is ready to borrow millions of dollars. Once the person is ready to come and build that amount of money, bring in that amount of money to build a hospital, it is accepted because it is government. As if government would never pay back. But eventually, government has to pay back. And And as if we're not concerned about our debt levels. But look at our debt to GDP ratio now. Almost 80%, it's at 70-60, say. And it is being projected that by 2024, we should be exceeding 85. It should be around 86% going. And that is too bad for our country.
Very well.
We can't depend on loans alone to improve our health sector. If left with me alone, I would have just said that we should put, we should fence some amount of money. Our tax revenue, I'm not saying that borrow the money from anywhere.
Okay.
Our tax revenue and grants, we should probably fence some amount of money out of it for health infrastructure. And we should do that for some number of years and improve on our health sector and make sure that Ghanaians are being given some contracts to build hospitals using our own tax revenue. I believe if we do that, we'll go a long way. Instead of, can we borrow to build 101 hospitals and it will be cheap? No.
All right, thank you so much, Doc, for your submission. So soon our time is up. I've just been prompted that we've already done one. Justice, our beloved country is in wrong hands. Our only prayers is for God, the Almighty, to protect JDM, to rescue this country from, Camp 2024, Nathaniel Nate in Ashaiman sent in that one. Doc, I mean, your final words, so that we go.
Well, my final words is that, as patriotic citizens of this country, whatever we're doing, we should also think of the nation as an organism that must survive, for us to also survive. And so we should be looking at how best we can do to help this country. The health sector budget is inadequate. It will not even be able to assist the government to finish uncompleted projects. The coalition on health, the coalition of NGOs on health said that that was last year, April. They said there were about 53 uncompleted major health projects in this country that the government needed to work on. And this is in line with Nana Akufo-Addo's own statement that they wanted to complete all uncompleted projects. So why don't we try to do the right thing and make sure that all the Mahama projects are completed, and we can now possibly start and make sure that we do proper budgetary allocation to ensure that we improve on the health sector.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc. We are so grateful for your time. This all time will allow us on the program. Make a time with us same time next week. My name is Justice Appiah, and the show has been Hot News. Many thanks to everyone who has